You are currently being poisoned by a timeline that doesn't exist. By the time you finish this video, you'll realize that the anxiety you feel every time you open LinkedIn or Instagram isn't a sign that you're a failure. It's a sign that your brain has been hijacked by a 200-year-old industrial lie. Think about it. Why do you feel like a failure if you haven't hit 6 figures by 26? Why does the 22-year-old on TikTok with the private jet make your steady progress feel like a slow-motion car crash? It's 2026. We are living through the most aggressive comparison pandemic in human history. And if you don't understand the psychological cage you're sitting in, you will spend the next 10 years chasing a bloom that was never meant for your season. But what if I told you that being a late bloomer is actually a biological superpower? What if the reason you feel behind is because you're building something so massive that it requires a different kind of gravity? There is an ancient Japanese philosophy called Oubaitori. It explains exactly why your delay is actually your greatest competitive advantage. Today, I'm going to show you how a 24-year-old freelancer in New York went from a suicidal burnout to building a permanent empire by doing the one thing that feels like career suicide in America. If you feel like you're running a race where everyone else started 5 miles ahead of you, pay attention, because by the end of this, the race ends and your life begins. But first, we have to look at the poison that's currently in your system. And trust me, it's not just social media. It's much deeper than that. In the United States, we've been raised on a standardized timeline. It's a conveyor belt. Graduate at 22. Get the entry-level job. Promotions every 2 years. Marriage by 30. House by 32. We've turned human life into an assembly line. And when one of the products, that's you, doesn't hit a milestone on time, we label it defective. But here's the problem. Human beings aren't machines. We're biological organisms. Think about a garden. If you planted a cherry tree and a plum tree at the same time, and the plum tree bloomed in February, while the cherry tree was still a stick in the mud, would you call the cherry tree a failure? Would you take a chainsaw to it because it wasn't performing like the plum? Of course not. That's insane. Yet, that's exactly what you do to yourself every time you look at someone else's bloom and judge your branch. First, we need to talk about Marcus, because Marcus was the perfect American, and it almost killed him. Marcus was 24. He lived in a cramped apartment in Brooklyn. He was the definition of main character energy. He moved to the city to build a tech agency. He did the 4 a.m. club. He did the ice baths. He read the alpha books. On paper, Marcus was doing everything right. But Marcus was suffering from a silent killer. Social comparison theory. Every morning, Marcus would open LinkedIn. He'd see a guy he went to high school with. Let's call him Dave. Dave just got $2 million in seed funding. Then he'd see Sarah. Sarah just became a senior director at Google. Marcus would look at his own desk, covered in half-finished logos and coffee stains, and he'd feel a physical weight in his chest, a gnawing inadequacy. He thought, if I'm not crushing it now, I'll never make it. So he did what most Americans do. He tried to force the bloom. He started taking shortcut clients. He lied about his experience to get bigger contracts. He stayed up until 3 a.m. every night, fueled by Adderall and anxiety. He was trying to grow cherry blossoms in the middle of a blizzard. And then, the inevitable happened. His work became sloppy. A major client fired him. His reputation in the small NYC tech circle was trashed. At 25, Marcus wasn't just behind, he was broken. He felt like a defective product on the assembly line. Marcus was ready to quit everything. He had the letter written. But a chance encounter in Central Park with an old Japanese-American gardener changed everything. He didn't give Marcus motivational advice. He gave him a lesson in botany. And that's where we find the secret of Oubaitori. Oubaitori, Yingmei Tao Li. The word is made of 4 characters. 1. Sakura, the cherry. The 2. Ume, the plum. 3. Momo, the peach. 4. Anzu, the apricot. In Japan, these 4 trees all bloom in the spring, but they never bloom at the same time. The plum is the early adopter. It blooms while there is still snow on the ground. It is the symbol of resilience. It doesn't wait for the sun. The cherry is the showstopper. It waits for the perfect moment of warmth and then explodes in a pink cloud. The peach and the apricot follow, each with their own specific scent, their own specific shape, and their own specific purpose. The Zen masters observe something profound. The plum tree never feels insecure around the cherry. The apricot never tries to change its scent to match the peach. They exist in non-competition. In this world, we've been taught that success is a zero-sum game. If Dave gets the funding, there's less funding for you. If Sarah gets the title, the spot is gone. Oubaitori says, you aren't in Dave's garden. You are your own species. You cannot compete where you do not compare. When Marcus started applying Oubaitori, he discovered something about the human brain that literally made him 10 times more productive than his early bloomer friends. It's called the season of the root. When Marcus met the gardener, Kenji, he pointed to a tree that looked dead. Is that a failure? Kenji asked. It's winter, Kenji, Marcus said. It's just dormant. No, Kenji said. It's working harder now than it does in the summer. It's pushing its roots deeper. It's searching for minerals. If it bloomed now, the first frost would kill it. It would be successful for one day, and then it would be dead forever. This is the biological reality of mastery. In neurobiology, we call this deep myelination. When you are in your quiet years, the years where nobody is clapping for you, where you aren't director of anything, you are actually building the neural insulation required to handle high-level success later. Think about the TikTok stars who get famous in 6 months. Their bloom is massive. But because they didn't have a season of the root, they have no character, no resilience, no deep systems. When the frost of a market crash or a scandal hits, they vanish. This is the biological tax I mentioned earlier. If you bloom too early, you bloom shallow. But if you bloom late, your roots are so deep that you become unstoppable. But how do you stop the pain of comparison? How do you stop your brain from amygdala hijacking every time you see Dave's new Porsche? The answer is in a concept Marcus called the fragrance test. Marcus stopped trying to be a software agency. That was Dave's scent. It was crowded. It was competitive. He looked at his own 4 trees. He realized he had a weird obsession with 1970s architecture. He realized he was actually a better writer than he was a designer. He stopped trying to bloom like a cherry, mainstream success, and leaned into being an apricot, niche mastery. He started an agency that only did branding for sustainable architectural firms. He used his deep roots, the 2 years of failure, where he had nothing to do but read and study, to offer a level of depth that Fast Dave could never match. By 27, Marcus wasn't just successful, he was the only. In a world of best, the only wins every time. You don't need to be better than Dave. You just need to be undave. Compare is a verb that requires 2 similar objects. If you are a different species, the comparison breaks. The anxiety vanishes. The poison clock stops ticking. If you've made it this far, it's because you know deep down that you've been sabotaging your own garden. You've been pouring comparison acid on your own roots because you were mad they weren't flowers yet. I want you to do something right now. Look at your life. What is the one area where you feel behind? Is it your career, your relationship, your bank account? Now I want you to ask yourself, is it winter or am I just a different tree? Comment below with the word roots if you're committing to finishing your season of the root instead of forcing a shallow bloom. I read every comment and I want to see how many late bloomers are ready to build something permanent. And if you found value in this, share it with one friend who is currently burning themselves out. You might just save their career. It's a phenomenon called the resistance. You can have all the Oubaitori in the world, but if you don't know how to defeat the internal saboteur, the voice that tells you to check your phone the moment you start working, your roots will rot before they ever reach the water. There is a terrifying reason why you procrastinate on the things you love most. And it's not because you're lazy. It's because of a biological defense mechanism that is actually trying to protect you from success. If you want to know how to kill that saboteur and finally reach your personal spring, you need to watch this video right here. Don't stop now. Your garden is waiting. I'll see you in the next one.